Right now, you're witnessing history in the making. The Democrat Party is experiencing what can only be described as a complete structural collapse. I was on the ground in D.C. today at the White House, folks, right in the belly of the beast, and I can tell you firsthand the panic is palpable. The EPA is streamlining emergency responses. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is creating a sovereign wealth fund that will generate actual assets for Americans instead of debt. And Secretary Kristi Noem is hunting down swatters targeting conservative media. Meanwhile, manufacturing is surging beyond expectation. Gas prices are dropping thanks to Trump's National Energy Dominance Council. This isn't just governance, it's a masterclass in effective leadership that has left Democrats scrambling for any foothold in a rapidly changing America. As we step into 2025, one thing is clear: de-dollarization is not stopping. It's accelerating. China and other BRICS nations are scared of President Trump, and it's making them more determined to reduce their dependence on the U.S. dollar. Their secret weapon is gold. In fact, China resumed buying gold, and they underreport their buys. Doesn't it make you wonder why? They recognize its global value and ability to withstand economic shocks. Gold is a global asset with innate value. It's tangible, reliable, and immune to economic manipulation. China and other countries, they want to be prepared, they just don't want it known. But this isn't just about nations, it's about you. In a world of shifting economic power, gold is your personal hedge against uncertainty. Noble Gold Investments can help secure your future. Visit nextnewsgold.com. It's linked down below to learn more and find out how you can get 10 free silver coins. The number's on the screen, 877-646-5347. Tell them Gary Franchi at Next News sent you. Okay, let's get into it now. Here's what happened. We have this is on-the-ground reporting from just earlier today. You're going to see it here. We publish it to X. If you're not following us on X, you need to find it. You need to follow us there. Here we go.
This is Gary Franchi reporting from just outside the White House with the Next News Network. And folks, you know, we're one of the few outlets in the press briefing room that isn't peddling fake news. While the mainstream clowns twist the truth, we are bringing you the real deal straight from the source. Today is March 19th, 2025. It's a big day at the White House. President Trump is on fire. He's working overtime to fix the messes left by Sleepy Joe and the radical left. From shuttle diplomacy to crushing lawsuits, we have the scoop. So buckle up, because this is what winning looks like, and nobody does it better than our fearless leader, Donald J. Trump. So let's dive in with all of the details. At 11 a.m. Eastern, President Trump kicked off his day in the Oval Office with his intelligence briefing. It was closed to the press because, unlike the Biden circus, this administration doesn't leak like a sieve. The man's focus, he's getting the raw intel that he needs to keep America first. But the real action? Well, right now, as I speak, Trump is on the phone with Ukraine's Zelensky. This comes hot off of his call with Russia's Vladimir Putin just yesterday. That's right, Trump is playing 4D chess while the world watches in awe. A White House official says the call is in progress, and a Zelensky spokesman confirmed it's going down. Why? Because Trump is the only one who can untangle this Ukraine-Russia mess. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, great guy, by the way, he was out front at 8:27 this morning. He was talking to reporters at a press gaggle, and he laid it out plain and simple. Shuttle diplomacy is difficult. It's tough, but we are going back and forth at every level, driving both sides towards a ceasefire and driving both sides towards the end of this war, end quote. That's what leadership looks like, folks. Waltz said that he's been on the horn with his Russian counterpart, and his call lined up with Ukrainian officials today. And someone actually shouted about foreign aid, and Waltz shut it down, didn't even dignify the response. Now, this is Trump's team at work. No games, just results. I mean, look, the fake news wants you to think that Trump's abandoning Ukraine. Absolutely wrong. He's forcing both sides to the table because he knows endless wars drain America dry. Biden and his cronies sent billions overseas while our borders crumbled, and Trump is fixing that. Zelensky is probably sweating right now, realizing he's dealing with a real negotiator, not some pushover. This is what strength looks like, and it's why the world respects us once again. And of course, in just a few moments at 1 o'clock, we've got the White House press secretary hitting the James S. Brady briefing room right here. It's all gonna be on camera. I'll be inside, so expect the usual suspects to lob grenades or whine about Trump's success, but we will be here, cutting through the noise. While that's brewing, let's talk about a huge win for American business. Ripple CEO Brad Glaringhouse just dropped a bombshell. The SEC's lawsuit against them, done, finished, kaput. This case has ended. It's over. That's what he said. That's right, friends. The Trump effect is already crushing the deep state's war on crypto. Under Biden, these bureaucrats harass innovators like Ripple nonstop. Now with Trump back, they're running scared. This is a victory for jobs, for freedom, and for sticking it to the swamp. So think about it. Trump's barely 2 months in. He's already delivering. The SEC's backing off because they know the big guy's watching. Clearinghouse and Ripple, they fought the good fight, and now they are free to keep building. This is what happens when you have got a president who gets it, someone who's been a businessman, not a career leech. The left's probably crying into their soy lattes right now, but for the rest of us, it is morning in America again. But I'm not done. We need to get serious. Juanita Broaddrick, yes, that Juanita Broaddrick, just got swatted today. About 10 cops and a SWAT team rolled up to her place after a fake call claiming 2 masked men were inside shooting people. This is absolutely disgusting, but it's not a one-off. InfoWars' Owen Schroyer, he got hit with the same nonsense overnight. The FBI director has vowed to investigate, but of course, where was the FBI when the left was weaponizing this garbage against Trump's allies? Broaddrick and Schroyer, they're patriots speaking truth to power, and this is how the radical left thanks them. Cowardly pranks that could get someone killed. But this is the deep state's playbook. Silence the good guys. And Trump's been saying it for years. They'll stop at nothing to shut down anyone who loves this country. But here's the thing. We're not scared. Broaddrick's tough as nails. Schroyer is a warrior, and Trump has got their backs. The FBI better get to the bottom of this fast because Americans are fed up with these games. It's time to drain the swamp for good. That's all for now, folks. President Trump's making waves from ending wars to crushing the SEC to protecting patriots like Juanita and Owen. This is why we voted for him. He's a fighter, and he's winning. Now, you won't get this from the fake news clowns, but you'll get it from us, a real network like us. Yes, I'm Gary Franchi with the Next News Network, reporting straight here on the ground from the White House. So share this post, subscribe to the Next News Network, and let's keep the truth alive. This is Gary Franchi.
Let's keep the truth alive, folks. Yep. We got some more breaking news from the White House. The press briefing just ended. And what did we learn? Trump is delivering real peace in Ukraine, but it's what wasn't discussed as setting the stage for the biggest economic shakeup in history, eliminating the IRS, whistleblowers, Ron Paul, and more. Listen to this.
That's right, Butch Wilmore. This is Gary Franchi, Chief White House Correspondent with the Next News Network. Today, in this White House briefing, we saw exactly what we've come to expect. Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, laying out the facts while the media struggled to keep up. Right off the top, we got confirmation of something Biden could never pull off: rescuing American astronauts stuck in space. That's right, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, who were supposed to be gone for 8 days, were left floating up there for 9 months, thanks to the incompetence of the previous administration. Yes, it took President Trump, along with Elon Musk and SpaceX, to bring them home. And the contrast could not be clearer. Trump acts and Biden dithers. Then we learned Trump's commitment to peace is making real progress. While the Biden years were filled with war hawks and defense contractors getting rich off endless conflict, Trump has both Putin and Zelensky talking about an actual ceasefire. No more blank checks to Ukraine. No more deep state profiteering. Just real negotiations to put America first and stop wasting American resources. And speaking of wasted resources, Trump's administration continues to expose the disastrous failures of the Biden economy. Under Trump, American manufacturing is surging, gas prices are plummeting, and deregulation is putting more money in the pockets of working Americans. Compare that to the Biden economy, where inflation crushed the middle class, while elites told you, just deal with it. And then there's the border. ICE is deporting violent criminals, actual monsters that Biden let flood into our communities. The numbers speak for themselves. Rapists, gang members, criminals who should never have been here in the first place, and yet activist judges are trying to stop Trump from doing his job. The administration made it very clear today. They are fighting back against these partisan judges who seem to think that their power is greater than that, than the President of the United States. But what didn't get discussed today? What question was not raised in that room? Well, I was prepared to ask about something that should concern every single American: the possible elimination of the federal income tax. That's right. President Trump and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, they are considering a historic move, one that would free Americans from the IRS once and for all. And guess who has weighed in? Elon Musk. That's right. Elon Musk suggested that former Congressman Ron Paul, yes, that Ron Paul, should be involved in the Doge initiative. Now, why does that matter? Well, it's because Paul's been exposing the IRS for decades. He was featured in the film America, Freedom to Fascism, where he was asked point blank if he could name a law requiring Americans to file a Form 1040. His answer? I cannot cite a law. No, I cannot. So think about that. The IRS has been confiscating wages, draining bank accounts, and targeting innocent Americans for years, many of whom were featured in that very film. And now with IRS whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler, in key Treasury roles, we have to ask, does the Trump administration's IRS restructuring team acknowledge, as Ron Paul said, no law requires the average American to file a Form 1040? And will they investigate how the DOJ and the IRS targeted people in that film, America, Freedom to Fascism, for political reasons? We're talking about real Americans here. Idaho State Senator Phil Hart, Joseph Bannister, former IRS agent, Larkin Rose, Sherry Peel Jackson, another IRS agent, even a retired FBI agent who faced civil and criminal prosecution for daring to question the IRS. These aren't fringe voices. These are people who demanded transparency, and they paid the price for it. Yet today, nobody in this room asked about it. Not one. They were too busy talking about deportation flights and TikTok regulations. But we know what really, truly matters. It's what happens with the IRS. And here's the bottom line. If Trump and his team are serious about getting rid of the federal income tax, it will be the greatest economic revolution in American history. That's why the establishment will fight it with everything that they've got. So if you want to help us break the algorithm, keep reposting, keep sharing, and keep following us on X, because they don't want you to know the truth, but we are going to report it anyway. This is
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Oh, man, that was my second take. You should see the first take. Okay, we got Fed Chair Powell blaming Trump policies. We got the truth. Wall Street is panicking, but why? Because Trump's tariffs are working, auto production skyrocketing, erasing Biden's losses. Buying American isn't inflationary, it's jobs. The establishment is lying to you. Listen to this.
That they've made, and I try.
How are you? Good to see you. Could we talk about Chair Powell today? He attributed some of the negative sentiment in the markets and the economy to Trump administration policy actions. What's your reaction to that?
Oh, I respect the independence of the Fed, as we all do with the White House, and so we don't remark about current policy decisions that they've made, and I try not to, cherry pick things that Chairman Powell said.
What about the
I think that I'm happy to talk about the economics of things, and I think that Chairman Powell was clear that if there were a tariff effect, that it's a transitory one, and that's in every economic model. I just think that the tariff effect is probably zero or negative, and I just on the Kudlow show highlighted that there was a massive increase in industrial production in the data that we got yesterday, and it was an increase in auto production, which was a bigger increase than the entire decline from the Biden administration last year. And so one of the things that President Trump's tariff policy is seeking to accomplish is to get people to buy U.S. cars instead of foreign cars so that we create jobs here. And if you do that, then if you go to the car lot and you look at like what's it cost to buy a car from this dealer or that dealer, then it's not necessarily inflationary to switch to the American car. And that's what our intuition is about how to think about that. But he was correct that the economics literature is clear that it's a level adjust, if anything at all.
Kevin, these oil execs were here today at some point. Obviously, that industry has warned a lot about the risk of tariffs on oil and gas. How dangerous and impactful is that to consumers?
What gets tariffed and not is something that you'll have complete clarity on in April 2nd, and so I don't want to talk about specific industries.
But generally, how harmful to the economy are tariffs? Impactful on the economy?
I think we think that we're onshoring activity with our trade policy, and it's really clearly in the data already.
Two questions. One on the GDP growth prediction that they had just now, 1.7% compared to 2.1% in December. What's your reaction to that?
Oh, I have an old-fashioned back of the envelope model that I was taught by Alan Greenspan how to use back when I was a 29-year-old economist at the Fed, and I just ran the numbers a couple days ago, and the old Greenspan model was at north of 2. And so I think Yeah, I said 2.5 a week ago, and I actually got that out of a model that was one of Alan Greenspan's favorite real-time models. So if you like, we could explain how to do that, but you don't want to do that right now.
You also just said that you respect the independence of the Fed, so you don't
Sure.
comment on that. The president fired last night 2 members of the FTC, the Democratic members of that. It raised questions about whether or not he does respect the independence of the Fed, or he thinks that they are fair game as well. What is the president's view on that?
We very much respect the independence of the Fed, and there's a massive literature that independent central banks perform better for economies, and so I don't think that's a
So
dispute.
he doesn't think he can fire him?
I think that's been resolved in the previous administration. You could go back and find a clip where I talked about it right in this space.
There's a reverse migration phenomenon going on in the country. A lot of people are moving out of the U.S. Migrants fear that they can be deported. Do you think that might have an effect on the economy in Europe?
One of the things we saw in the jobs report was that there's a massive increase in employment for U.S. residents. It was 278,000, if I remember the number correctly. And so I think the president's objective is to create more jobs for American workers, and that was clearly in the jobs report right then. If an undocumented person is leaving the country, then the question is, what was their employment status? And for many of them, they weren't employed.
When it comes to trading blocs like the European Union, is the president considering tariffs country by country, or?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about ahead of the April 2nd thing. And I'll take one more question.
Yeah, when it comes to sanctions on Russia, has anything changed when it comes to this conversation that we saw President Trump have with Putin? What has Trump told you about if those sanctions are off the table, how that would affect the economy?
That's an ongoing negotiation, so I'm sorry. So that won't count as the last question. Because it's a yes.
Would you be willing to give us an update on that ag program that you mentioned on the egg prices? How's that going?
They're down $2.50 a dozen, and I went to the grocery store as I do every Saturday because I'm the one who likes to shop in my family because I get to see all the prices. And the egg prices in DC were actually down quite a bit more than $2.50 a
How do you know
dozen.
that's directly correlated with what the Trump administration is doing?
Because if you look at the data on the culling of chickens, it's basically stopped starting on January 20th. There's a chart we can show you on that, but it's astonishing how many chickens were killed in the last 2 months of the Biden administration, and by having a more prudent, as Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins has found, a more prudent policy about how to manage the disease, then we got lower egg prices and healthier chickens because they're not being culled in millions. Again, remember, it was more than 100-something million chickens were culled, and they spent $2 billion killing the chickens, and if you look at what's happened to the culling since President Trump took office, it's gone almost to zero. Well, thank you guys very much. I'm sorry.
Of eggs versus what consumers are actually paying. We've
It's-
seen wholesale prices go down, but it's not always reflected in the grocery store.
The latest egg prices, go to the grocery store. I literally just went to the grocery store and bought the same eggs I always bought, and they were way down. No, but it's $2.50 a dozen for the whole country. Okay, thank you guys. Thanks, guys.
You know what's funny about that clip? I mean, what he's talking about with the egg prices and how many chickens were killed in the last 2 months of the Biden administration. You know, I mean, it was clear sabotage. They wanted to see the egg prices go up so people could start screaming and yelling and blaming Trump. What also is interesting is Caitlin Collins fired that last question off. I was actually standing right on the outside of that circle. And I just barely caught that on camera because at the moment I was actually doing this interview with Matt Bailey. And you can see right behind me, I'm going to play this for you, and you'll see everybody start to gather as the gaggle begins. And you'll see me look back, go, wait a second, there's something really serious happening behind us. But we were already in the middle of this debrief from the press conference. And anyway, check this out. Hey, it's Gary Franchi here, Next News Network. We're outside the White House with Matt Bailey, who is a White House correspondent. You may have seen him on the channel, on the X account. We were just inside the White House briefing room. Caroline Leavitt just delivered her press conference. What were some of your main takeaways off the bat?
Main takeaway is they're really interested in seeing where this goes with the federal judges in terms of the TDA deportations, the Tren de Agua deportations, to see what the judges are going to do, and if they're going to be able to get around those orders to stop those deportations and bring them back.
Yeah, there was a lot of reporters asking the same questions. It got a bit repetitive.
But that's what the mainstream media does. They just repeat the talking points that they get from, on high. As for me, one of my main takeaways, and it's actually what's interesting, is there was a question that was raised by a reporter who I just met prior to the briefing's beginning, and I had submitted a question earlier this week regarding what's going on in Deerfield, Illinois, the public school district there. 13-year-old girls being forced to change clothing in a locker room with a male who believes that he is a female. They went and complained to the administration of their public school. The public school sided with the male, the biological male, and forced the young girls to go and change in front. So I had submitted this question to the White House press department, press room, and I'm still awaiting an answer. But that question was raised today, and I thought it was very important. And I was like, in my mind, I'm going, thank God that question was raised. So right now, they simply just deferred to the Department of Education because the case was actually referred to the Department of Education, and then the Department of Education moved it to the, it was the Justice Department, then to the Department of Education. So they're not a clear-cut answer from the White House, but at least the question was brought forward in a global setting at the seat of power here in Washington, D.C., and I'm just thankful for that. I did have a question, too. I wanted to talk about Ron Paul. I want to talk about the DOGE effort, the income tax. Secretary Bessent has just elevated 2 whistleblowers to high positions in the Treasury Department, and with those high positions, he's been tasked them for 1 year to investigate the wrongdoings taking place at the IRS. So my question was really revolving around the film America Freedom to Fascism and the late Aaron Russo, who produced that film, and a lot of the people who were in that film. They questioned the IRS. They were persecuted for it. So I want to get some answers. Didn't get to ask the question, so that story's not over. What else we got for us?
Just forgive me bragging a little bit. I'm kind of on an uneven hill there. No,
we're on the grassy knoll at the White House.
We're on the White House grassy knoll. All the JFK files were just released, and so far no big bombshell. We expect as things dig into them, as we dig into them, the analysis has said it might be a little embarrassing for the CIA, but other than that, no big cover-up. Again, back to the federal judges.
Well, I want to just take it back one second. I was speaking to another reporter who I met here from Epoch Times, and he pored over the documents for 4 hours. He was not pleased with what he had seen so far, and I said, well, there's 80,000 documents President Trump had stated were going to be released. He said, no, there wasn't 80,000 clearly, and he went and got clarification on that point, and he said that a lot of the documents had yet to be scanned. So if you want to see them, you got to go to the archives and talk to the librarian over there and fill out a library card and figure out the Dewey Decimal System for the JFK files. So there's a lot.
But Caroline did say that they are working diligently to scan most, if not all, of the rest of the things that hadn't been scanned. So it's. We're definitely going to have something here in the next couple of days. Maybe there'll be some breaking news out of that. But again, one last point on the judges was, the judges, the federally appointed judges, they're under the executive branch. So it creates a really interesting conflict of interest that I haven't heard addressed in the briefing room. That, you have these federally appointed judges who are not, they're political appointees in that they have to be Senate confirmed, but the job is not political. Their job is to follow the law. So and of course we heard Caroline Leavitt say that the Supreme Court needs to rein in these judges, but the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction over the federal judges. So it'll be very interesting to see what legal maneuvers the Trump team can do to actually enact their agenda.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to keep track of all this news, and news is breaking every minute here at the White House. I'm here with Matt Bailey. I'm Gary Franchi for the Next News Network.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, so that was another report we just filed today. Super cool, though, to see, you guys saw it all started gathering behind us as we concluded that report. You saw me look over my shoulder. There was also another gaggle. I actually missed 2 gaggles today. I'm like, oh boy. But we got the clips for you, thank God. Here's a C-SPAN clip of Stephen Miller nailing it. You cannot have a democracy where single individual district court judges can assume the full total powers of the commander-in-chief. And Ian Miles Chong says, correct, something needs to be done about judicial activism, or you might as well say goodbye to the republic. Remember when they kept saying, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, he's a threat. Well, I think we found another threat to democracy.
Where you cannot have a democracy where single individual district court judges can assume the full total powers of the commander-in-chief. Even on the Supreme Court, it takes agreement of 5 Supreme Court justices to change a federal policy. 5. A single district court judge out of 700 cannot set policy for the entire nation, let alone on national security and public safety issues. The president has been clear that he has tremendous respect for Justice Roberts and believes it's essential the Supreme Court crack down and stop this assault on our democracy from these radical rogue judges that are usurping the powers of the presidency and laying waste to our entire constitutional system. You cannot have...
Okay, we've got more from Stephen Miller as well. Let's take a look. Just gathering these clips here for you as we are currently live. Let's take a look. Here's President Trump. This is another clip here. Secretary of the Treasury. President Trump's leadership speaks for itself. He cares deeply about serving all 330 million of his constituents. Treasury Secretary.
Come in.
And when you're in the Oval, what are the truths and misconceptions of the president, meaning of the outside and what people know or don't know?
Well, how about this? We had a lot of foreign leaders come in, and I knew someone in one of their entourages. I won't tell you which one, but afterwards he comes up to me and goes, "Holy crap!" Because he's really smart. President Trump has perfect recollection because he was talking about something that had happened in that country 30 years ago. And he said, and he really, so the President Trump listens, he is judicious, he is just taking it all in, he likes to see how people react. It's just incredible executive skills. Yeah, and the other thing too, that he's tough. But I went in and I showed him, we were talking about something the other day, and I said, well, this is going to cause some layoffs. And he goes, well, let's try to fix it.
Yeah.
Let's try to fix it. So I always say he really regards himself as the mayor of America.
Right.
330 million people.
He wants to be personable to everyone.
And he cares deeply about all of them. And he doesn't care whether you're Elon Musk or the guy cutting the rose garden, but you're his constituent.
And when you're in the Oval...
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful to hear that insight from the Treasury Secretary. Here we have more. Let's see. We have the other Stephen Miller clip here. Okay, let's go to the press secretary. And I think you'll see some... You might see me in the press room in this clip. Let's take a look. After suffering a steep decline in the final year of the Biden administration, manufacturing sector is roaring back.
Positive economic data continues to pour in, showing the immediate impact of President Trump's pro-growth agenda. After suffering a steep decline in the final year of the Biden administration, the manufacturing sector came roaring back in February. Industrial production surged in February. These are new numbers. 3 times at a greater 3 times rate than the expectations to its highest ever recorded level. And President Trump's laser focus on massive deregulation and unleashing our domestic energy industry is leading to stabilities for Americans' bottom lines. As Newsweek summed it up today, gas prices are plummeting under President Trump. Positive economic data continues to pour in, showing the...
And we do have more. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says inflation is rising due to President Trump's tariffs, but you saw the head of the Economic Council rebuffing those claims.
Of how much of it is tariffs. So let me say that it is going to be very difficult to have a precise assessment of how much of inflation is coming from tariffs and from other, and that's already the case. You may have seen that goods inflation moved up pretty significantly in the first 2 months of the year. Trying to track that back to actual tariff increases, given what was tariffed and what was not, very, very challenging. So some of it, the answer is clearly some of it. A good part of it is coming from tariffs, but we'll be working, and so will other forecasters, to try to find the best possible way to separate non-tariff inflation from tariff inflation. How much of it is?
How about we just end the Fed and call it a day, right? Okay, we've got some more here. Let's see. Let me find that clip. There's a lot of clips in here. I want to find the one. Let's see here. Here's the mention of the activist judges. Everyone's talking about this.
Look at the injunction. It's a clear effort by these judges to slow roll this president's agenda. And if you just look at the injunctions that this president has faced, deporting foreign terrorists from our homeland, hiring and firing of executive branch employees, which, when the president is the executive of the executive branch. You also see an injunction by a partisan activist judge when it comes to the Secretary of Defense trying to determine the readiness of our troops and the qualifications of our troops in our armed forces. Does a single district court judge really have more authority over the Commander-in-Chief and the Secretary of Defense to determine who should serve in our United States Armed Forces? Absolutely not. Anyone who has taken a basic civics lesson can understand that, and it's ridiculous lawfare that we are witnessing.
The lawfare continues, and let's continue here. When asked about a complaint filed with the DOJ from mother whose daughter was forced. Okay, so this is what I brought up as the gaggle was happening behind me. This is the question that was raised.
Men, the president has made it incredibly clear that it is the policy of this administration that there are only two genders, male and female, only two sexes rather, male and female, and that we are not going to tolerate such behavior by men pretending to be women. The president will continue to strongly stand for the rights of women and girls, not just in sports and on athletic fields, but also in private spaces like locker rooms and bathrooms. The president has made it incredibly clear that.
Now, there's more to that clip, but she did say, I want to refer you to the Department of Education for the full response. Let's continue. Here she is talking more about the judge.
The president has, and I would just like to point out that the judge in this case is essentially trying to say that the president doesn't have the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists from our American soil. That is an egregious abuse of the bench. This judge does not have that authority. It is the opinion of this White House and of this administration, and that's why we're fighting this in court. And it's very, very clear that this is an activist judge who is trying to usurp the president's authority. Under the Alien Enemies Act, the president has this power, and that's why this deportation campaign has continued. And this judge, Judge Boasberg, is a Democrat activist. He was appointed by Barack Obama. His wife has donated more than $10,000 to Democrats, and he has consistently shown his disdain for this president and his policies, and it's unacceptable. And I would just like to...
Boom! Unacceptable right there. America is back. Here's President Trump getting off Marine One, and then juxtaposed with Joe Biden struggling with his coat. Yeah. Yep. America is back, baby. We got some more to get into here. Here is President Trump talking with Laura Ingraham.
Left him up. He abandoned. When I came in office, I said, Elon, we got to get them out. You have a rocket ship handy? How many people have a rocket? And Biden left them up. He abandoned them. We could have done this sooner, but Biden didn't want to because he was embarrassed by what happened. So they were up there. They were supposed to be there for a few days. They were there for many months. And now they're coming back. There are many more that love our country, and they love our country now more than they have maybe ever in their lives. There's never been a movement like MAGA, like America First, call it whatever you want to call it. This is the greatest movement in the history of politics. The one thing they never talk about is, where did these billions of dollars go? They never want to look, because when you see where the money went and the scams, you don't even have to see anything. Just look at the heading and the scam that they've created. And a judge like him will never look at that. Look at the fraud that we've caught. We've caught so much fraud, so much waste, so many employees that never showed up to work. And we have a judge from a very liberal state who ruled like that. Because it would have never happened if I were president. That was not a war that was supposed to happen. And it did happen, so that's where we are. Never did defy a court order.
And you wouldn't in the future?
No, you can't do that. However, we have bad judges. We have very bad judges, and these are judges that shouldn't be allowed. I think at a certain point you have to start looking at what do you do when you have a rogue judge. I think that President Xi would like to get along, and I think Russia wants to get along with the United States. I also think we're a much different country than we were just a few months ago. We're a country that's now respected. We were not respected. We were being laughed at. We had incompetent leadership. This was a war, as an example, that would have never happened if I were president. When I came in,
never would have happened. And now we actually have peace on the table. We have more. Let's take a look at POTUS talking, the press secretary talking about gas prices. And if you look there, hang on.
Gas prices will continue.
Check that out. Gas prices across the U.S. Wait a second. You see right there on the left, on the right, what is that? Like almost middle of the screen, you see me right there standing on the side. I'm like, I'm going on that side today. It's actually much better on that side, to be honest with you. The other side, everyone's like trying to walk up to an aisleway. Everyone's trying to walk up and down. It's very crowded. It's compact. Everyone's walking in that door. But on the left side of the room, if you will, yeah, that's where you got to hang out.
Gas prices across the U.S. have fallen for the fourth straight week. 34 states now seeing gas under $3 a gallon. This limited ceasefire with Ukraine regarding oil refineries, energy, will that affect gas prices here in the U.S.?
Well, it's certainly the president's hope that gas prices will continue to fall, and he's working every single day to ensure that we do. As you just mentioned, there's been very encouraging data. Inflation is cooling and gas prices are falling. The president has established a National Energy Dominance Council, and it's ultimately the president's goal. And this administration is working hard on it every single day to increase our energy production right here in the United States of America, to have a Trump energy boom like we saw in our first term, which will not only lead to lower fuel prices here at home, but also lessen the rate of inflation that was created by the previous administration.
Gas prices across the U.S.
It's just cool seeing that. I'm sorry. Okay, we've got more. Cracks. Secretary Sean Duffy on Fox saying we're seeing cracks in the age of our air traffic control system. That's why we're going from copper wires to fiber. We're still running copper. My goodness.
What we're going to have here is an announcement in the next couple of days. I know. We are going to have a brand new system. Again, our system is 25, 30 years old. We use copper wires, floppy disks. I mean, it's atrocious, the system we use. It's safe, but we're seeing the cracks of age. So we're going to build a brand new state-of-the-art system. The Congress,
give us a little
detail.
Sean, give us a little detail.
Okay, so we're going to go from copper lines to fiber lines. We're going to have our radar. Some of the newest models that we have date back to like 1982. Yeah, we're going to have brand new radar, brand new terminals for air traffic controllers. We're going to have sensors on runways, so they don't have to stand in the tower and look out with binoculars. And oftentimes, the controllers' views are impeded. On their screens, they'll be able to see where airplanes are at on the tarmac. So again, top technology that's going to be deployed. The key to this is speed. It's not that we don't know that we've had a problem with air traffic control, but it takes too long. And then technology changes, money changes, administrations change. So we have to do this really fast. And so the Congress has to give us all the money up front. We're getting help from, Southwest. You just showed the airline there from Southwest. They just had to update their system. They had a similar problem to what the FAA has. In 2.5 years, they've updated their system, complete revamp. We're going to take in some of the brightest and best minds who have done it in the past. We have some SpaceX engineers that are helping us and others to help us deploy, again, this fantastic system. What we're going to have here is an announcement.
That's amazing. So the most revealing aspect of this Democrat collapse is their inability to counter the Trump administration momentum. While Press Secretary Leavitt confidently announces record-breaking industrial production numbers, Democrats are busy trying to shop for activist judges to block Trump's agenda. As she pointed out today, 67% of all injunctions by partisan activists in the judicial branch have targeted President Trump, with 92% coming from Democrat-appointed judges. But these desperate attacks aren't slowing down the Trump train. They're actually highlighting just how impotent the opposition has become. All right? The furniture manufacturer relocating from Canada to North Carolina and the University of Pennsylvania losing $175 million over women's sports are just the latest evidence that America is reclaiming its greatness. So here is the question. Are we witnessing the final death throes of the Democrat Party as a viable political force in America, or just the beginning of their irrelevance? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our exclusive Next News shirts and hats in the merch shop at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, link down below.